All right, good evening and welcome to the June 18th Conservation Commission meeting. If anyone else is recording tonight's meeting, please let us know. As we've done in the remote and hybrid environment in the past, I will go down the list of Conservation Commission members. For opening roll call, please verbally confirm your attendance. Kelsey Quinlan here. Catherine Walsh is absent. Anil Prasad?
Here.
Kalima Mustafa Woodberg? Here. Okay, great. So starting off tonight's agenda, we have public hearing number 1, Norwest Woods request for determination of applicability, Norwood number 2025-07. Applicant is Timothy Dolan of Chestnut Hill Realty, and a representative for tonight is Zachary Navarro from Essex Horticulture. And the project description is proposed maintenance of a stormwater retention basin in the buffer zone. Do I have a representative here to discuss this agenda item tonight?
Yes.
Hi. Just please state your name for the record.
Yes, of course. So I'm Zachary Navarro from Essex Horticulture, representing Chestnut Hill Realty, and we're here for the RDL and maintenance of the stormwater retention basin at Norwest Woods. And I have 4 key points, if I may. Okay, great. So this is authorized maintenance. The work is explicitly authorized under the existing order of conditions, section B.01.01, which requires detention basins to be cleaned. We're restoring the basin to its original design and function, not modifying it. And then the scope update from the site visit that I had with both Carly and Tim Dolan of Chestnut Hill. That was on 6/9. We discovered more extensive vegetation than initially visible in the wintertime when I went for the initial RDA visit to put that together. So we need to update our methods to use a mini excavator instead of hand tools for effective restoration. And the vegetation has grown into the riprap and compromised the basin's function. So working from the original design, Tim Dolan provided this as-built plan showing the exact inlet locations and original specifications, which Carly, I had sent to you via email over the weekend, but I'll give you guys a copy of this. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I've highlighted the basin location. Let's see, we're in the southwest corner there of the property. Let's see here. One moment, please. So we're using this to ensure that we restore the basin exactly as originally designed. There will be no changes to the footprint, capacity, or function, only restoration for this. And for methods, some of which are highlighted there in the RDA, that all work will occur during dry weather conditions. Access will be via existing pathways only, and proper disposal of all removed materials off-site, and that the erosion controls highlighted in the RDA will also be in place throughout the work. So in closing, this maintenance is necessary to restore the proper stormwater function and prevent downstream sedimentation, and we're committed to doing this work properly according to the original design specifications.
Great, thank you for that.
Of course.
Do the commissioners have any questions?
I don't.
No. Carly, what do you have to say?
So this project is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act. In terms of our bylaw regulations, it is also exempt because it's maintenance. There are some conditions that I would recommend. I mean, I would recommend a negative determination of applicability, but just to make sure that the work won't end up degrading the adjacent wetland because it's super close. I have some points that I wanted to bring up. Let's see. I can just read them off if
That'd
that's
be
helpful.
wonderful, thank you.
Okay, so no heavy machinery, stockpiles, equipment, waste materials, etc. shall be placed in the wetland. All erosion and sediment control shall be monitored, maintained, and adjusted throughout the duration of the project as required to prevent adverse impact to wetlands or stormwater protection zones. Any entrapped sediment or other material shall be removed to an area outside the 100-foot buffer zone. Any stockpiling of loose materials shall be properly stabilized to prevent wind and water erosion and sedimentation of resource areas. If there is any planting in the stormwater basin, it shall consist of native plant species tolerant of the predicted wet-dry regime. In no case shall any soil or excavated material be stockpiled within 50 feet of any wetland, floodplain, or storm drain inlet. And then into the future, maintenance of the stormwater basins will occur in a timely manner, apropos of Section F continuing conditions of the amended order of conditions. Let's see. And finally, that no landscaping maintenance debris shall be dumped into the wetland or its buffer zone. During my visit, I noticed that there was debris from lawn mowing that had been dumped into the edge of the wetland, so it should be conveyed to the property owner that that shouldn't occur anymore.
Of course.
Those were my thoughts.
Okay. Those sound very reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Any?
I have no objection.
Do you believe that those are reasonable?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think. Yes. Thank you. I think it's good that the stormwater feature will be restored to its original intent, and will better serve the site once the work is complete. Does anyone from the public have any comments on this agenda item? I don't believe so. So if it will please the commission, we could have a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability
With special conditions.
with the special conditions as stated.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. I'll now go down the list of Conservation Commission members. Please state your position, starting with myself, Kelsey Quinlan. Aye. Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Kalima Mustafa Woodward.
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item 2. We have MBTA Railroad right-of-way request for determination of applicability, Norwood number 2025-01. Applicant is Anna Rita Pasco of Keolis, and our representative is Matt Donovan of Benesh. Project description is vegetation management and maintenance activities in the railroad right-of-way, and the confirmation of boundaries of resource areas as depicted on the plans, and this is continued from May 7th of 25. Is there anyone here to speak for this agenda item?
Hey everyone, yeah, this is Matt Donovan from Benish, here to represent Keolis for this RDA.
Hello, good to see you.
So yeah, this meeting was continued from May, as she said. I gave a little presentation of the maps and the work that's included in the vegetation management plan. I'd be happy to go over that again, or I can open the floor up to the commission if there's any further questions. I know there was a question of if any mechanical work was being done in that one area of jurisdiction in Norwood, and we had gone to our contractors, and they stated that there was no record of any mechanical work being done in that area over the last 5 years. So I think I had relayed that to Carolyn back when we had reached out to them, and then we had to continue some more time just with conflicts with other town meetings, but we're back, so I'm happy to discuss it if you have any questions.
Yeah, welcome back. I think it would be great if you could give a brief refresh for the commission members.
Of course, so yeah, we submit these maps to your commission every 5 years, and that's required by CMR 11, which was regulations created for rights of way specifically, and it's required to get these determinations from your commission at a 5-year basis before submitting the 5-year vegetation management plan to Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. There are regulations in place to keep the sensitive areas protected for the duration of the plan, and these restrictions can be found in CMR 11.04. The maps we provide you with are mainly made for the chemical portion of the plan, but will often dictate where mechanical methods will be used due to the chemical restrictions. As far as the chemicals, there's 2 chemical applications each year. One is the roadbed treatment, and the other is the brush treatment for the areas adjacent to the roadbed. The brush program will never take place in the blue or yellow sensitive areas that are marked with blue and yellow on the maps. Those blue and yellow areas will only be receiving the roadbed treatment and is restricted from the brush program. In the blue and yellow areas, more effort is put into controlling the vegetation with mechanical measures as needed due to the chemical restrictions. The roadbed application that takes place in these sensitive areas is performed by a spray truck, drives directly on the track with nozzles spraying the solution directly down onto the track. It sprays up to 12 feet from the center line of the track, and there is a certified applicator in the truck with environmental monitor in the truck at all times with the certified applicator. They are familiar with the site conditions and equipped with these maps, instructing the operator as necessary. The yellow zones will never receive any treatment due to shoulders and may still receive treatment directly down onto the ties, and that's done at the environmental monitor and applicator's discretion. The blue zones will typically receive the full roadbed treatment, and the dark blue zones will receive the full roadbed treatment every other year. And that's more of like a DEP or water supply zone that you have in the northern part of your town. The chemicals each year are taken from the sensitive area material list that is provided to us from Mass DAR. We do include the exact mixture in our yearly operational plan that we do send to your commission every year via certified mail. Again, we are seeking a positive 2A determination for confirmation of the maps, as well as a negative determination for the work included in the vegetation management plan.
Thank you for that.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Carly, do you think you could put the maps up on the screen? And what is the legend again? What is the pink? Okay, the IWPA. Interim well protection area.
Matt, would you be willing to describe for the Conservation Commission what we're looking at when we look at these maps?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So this is in the northern part of town, and it's all in IWPA, so that's a DEP zone. This is not something that you would see in the field. This is strictly, unlike a wetland this is not something you'd see in a field. It's more a radius of like a wellhead protection area. So these, we strictly rely on the DEP layers that are showing these pink zones. And we have marked it dark blue, which is in conformance with the regulations where we can only spray the roadbed treatment every other year. So the brush in the areas adjacent to the roadbed will never receive the brush program, where they're spraying off into the distance. So the only alternative in those areas, in the areas adjacent to the roadbed, would be the mechanical vegetation management. But it will receive the roadbed treatment every other year, which is what the dark blue represents. And if you start to scroll down, it's more of that throughout this whole area. And I think the first actual resource area is down on one of the last pages. This is going through the center of town where they're able to conduct the roadbed and brush program, the roadbed treatment happening in the May-June timeframe, and the brush program happening in the August-September timeframe. They're spraying off into the distance adjacent to the right of way, and that's important to, as there's PTC cables, which are overhead lines and telephone poles and ditches and inside to curves, and so it's important to do both of those programs to keep it an established right of way. And then as you get down here towards page 8, you get or I guess this, if you go to page 9, you see the very tip of that wetland limit right there, and that is marked with blue as it's in between 10 and 100 feet of that wetland, and that represents a zone where we're only going to be spraying the roadbed treatment once per year, and not ever do the brush application in this area. And then here, I think it's a culvert, it may be a bridge, but I believe it's a culvert where you have a stream connecting, a hydrologic connection from one side of the track to the other. They're going to turn the sprayers off. If it's a culvert, oftentimes they'll still spray directly down on the track, but they definitely will shut the shoulder spray off on both sides.
That's like it's a wide arch there, it's under the railroad tracks.
Yeah, I think that's behind the Norwood Commerce Center.
And along the maintenance road in Dean Park.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, here you're still within that 100-foot buffer. And then I believe from the station to the Walpole line, pretty much, or a little north of the station where you see yellow, I think there's, I think originally back at some point in time, it was just ditches and they're kind of turned into wetlands along each side of the track in this area. So this is a yellow zone. What they'll do in this area is they'll never spray the shoulders. If the applicator and environmental monitor can keep it in conformance with the regulations, they will still spray directly down onto the ties. But never that shoulder treatment and never that brush application for the rest of the way with the Walpole.
Okay, thank you again for the very thorough explanation for the maps. Commissioners, do we have any questions? No? Carly, what do you have to say?
I think that my position on this hasn't changed. I think it's a positive determination of applicability that herbicide spraying may be allowed without any further filing, but that mechanical vegetation removal in buffer zones requires the filing of a notice of intent to move forward. And the finding is that the wetland resource boundaries were unable to be determined because I was not able to actually go make a site visit. Because it demanded a training that was a certain number of dollars that the town was not willing to cover, that would have been on the applicant's side. Looks like we have someone else from this project online now too.
Training? You said training for what?
A training to be able to access the tracks.
Oh, okay, so not like a wetland delineation training,
Right.
a railroad-specific training.
Safety training.
Okay.
And what's the cost for that?
I don't remember at this point, but it was not able to happen. So I'm not comfortable saying that the delineation is correct because I have not been out there to see.
Are these wetland delineations based off of the Mass GIS wetlands data layer, or is it flagged in the field?
We take these maps out with us that have, so we do identify them with the DEP layers and SGIS wetland layers, and we take those out into the field and mark the tracks in conformance with the setback regulations in CMR 11.04. So we do identify these areas, and we're often pretty conservative with setting it back within conformance. So obviously you need to keep that 10-foot buffer from applying the herbicides to a wetland. We'll typically give that an extra couple of feet, and we do actually mark the tracks with plates that correspond to the yellow and blue colors that you see on the maps. So we do go out in preparation for the submission of these RDAs and mark the tracks, make sure they're all still in the field. Oftentimes they'll get banged up or removed if they're replacing ties or something, so we do make sure that they are visible and directly onto the ties. And yeah, so they are identified through the DEP, the GIS layers, but then they're confirmed in the field. As far as the training that she mentioned, that's nothing that MBTA or Keolis can do about that. It's required by the Federal Railroad Administration. We are willing to accommodate site visits as it is required to get these determinations to confirm the markings. Oftentimes, because these maps have been in use since the 80s. Most commissions have been out there several times in the past to confirm these markings, and they don't change much. We will change them slightly every year, but in your town, it's pretty cut and dry as far as the markings being well within conformance with the setbacks in CMR 11.04. So if we would be seeking that positive 2A, I can say that we've received over 70 determinations from 78 different towns and haven't received one positive 2B yet. It's just positive 2As, and we've gotten a negative determination from every town as well, allowing us to conduct the vegetation management plan.
Okay, thank you again. Carly, do you know if anyone from your department or the town has been out to ever confirm these boundaries?
I do not.
Okay.
Just so the Concom is aware, when he says 2A, 2B, what that means, because I'm not sure if y'all know what that means. So on the determination of applicability form, which is the Wetlands Protection Act Form 2, that we fill out after someone submits a request for determination of applicability, we submit a determination of applicability form when the Conservation Commission decides it's negative or positive. Section B is a determination. You can give a positive or a negative one. In the positive determination, 2A, which he referenced, says the following. The boundary delineations of the following resource areas described on the reference plans are confirmed as accurate. Therefore, the resource area boundaries confirmed in this determination are binding as to all decisions rendered pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations regarding such boundaries for as long as this determination is valid. Okay, 2B, he mentioned, which is the boundaries of wetlands resource areas and buffer zones listed below are not confirmed by this determination, regardless of whether such boundaries are contained on the plans attached to this determination or to the request for determination. So that's what he was referencing.
Okay. So if I'm interpreting what you're saying correctly, there is hesitation with us, you know, essentially saying these are correct when no one has actually looked at them.
They haven't been confirmed.
Who can, sorry to interrupt you. How can we figure out the cost of this training and what it'll take for someone to get on site to actually verify?
Well, it's the time that it takes as well.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? If there were to be an NOI, this training would be necessary for you to then confirm what is proposed then, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, a training seems necessary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's required by the FRA. There's no way around that. As far as doesn't take too much time to confirm. I mean, we're talking one really small portion of right of way that even has a resource area. It's at the very southern portion. You can almost see all of it from the station. And it's pretty, I think the track is tangent throughout that whole stretch.
So
One other thing I will say is that there is, on the actual DOA form itself, there is space for commentary or narrative that several towns has taken advantage of to be able to relieve some of the concerns and basically say that this determination is only confirming the boundaries or the markings to be in conformance with the CMR 11.04 setbacks for sensitive areas. And what that does is it makes the determination not binding for other applicants or even for this applicant. If Keolis proposed something other than vegetation management plan, you can restrict that positive 2A from being binding for other projects, and that's what a lot of other towns has used as a tool to be able to allow this.
Okay. How do you feel about something along those lines? Or anybody, how does anybody feel about that?
I don't know. I feel like Carly should, at some point this is going to come back up again. So someone should go out there and verify and we can put this to bed. Right? I was just looking up the cost. It's anywhere from $350 to like $1,200 or something. I think there's like 14 modules or a number of modules. I don't know how much you need, Carly. I don't know.
I do see a benefit. There's a good amount of tracks in town, and I feel like this is an obstacle that will continue to come forth. Obviously, they have a vegetation management plan that needs to be, confirmed at some frequent interval. So I do think my leaning would be, a positive determination and getting the training and going through the NOI process. But that's just me.
Yeah, well, I think the question would be if we do a positive determination, you get the training, you go out there, and you verify there's no, wetland implication. Could we then issue a negative?
I think there's a couple parts to this. It would be a positive determination of applicability in that herbicide spraying would be allowed without further filing, but proposed mechanical vegetation removal in buffer zone would require a notice of intent to move forward. I think the sticking point is the wetlands resource areas. Whether they're confirmed by this determination or they're not.
So these are three separate things.
Yes.
Right, we would be seeking the positive 2A and a negative determination for this RDA. The positive determination, which is a positive 2A, would be confirming the maps, whereas the negative determination would be confirming the work included in the vegetation management plan. We are seeking a negative for both herbicides and mechanical within the buffer zone, just in that southern part of town. If ever Keolis needs to manage the vegetation, there are PTC cables and utilities through that stretch that they need to keep free. growing brush or overhanging trees that pose a risk to the operations. We do need to get in there and cut back, as there is no alternative. We are not able to spray in that area due to the restrictions.
I think though that if we're saying that we would like you to submit a notice of intent for proposed mechanical cutting, it's not saying that you can't do mechanical cutting, just that there's another step in the process, which is to submit a notice of intent.
Yeah, the whole intent of CMR 11 is for the vegetation management plan, or the vegetation management in conformance with the NDAR approved VNP, for the work to be presumed not to alter these resource areas and not need the notice of intent. So that is done through this RDA process that we're here for right now.
Okay. I do see an avenue forward by using that area for a comment section to not confirm the boundaries, but to allow what is to be considered vital maintenance to the tracks through mechanical and herbicide. That is an option I view, but what is the will of the board?
I can support that, and I also would support Carly taking the training. I think the cost is negligible.
Okay, so Matt, would you be willing to write up the note that you had mentioned other towns have used in that section so we could see that? Could you write that right now and put it up on the screen?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
I think this is what you were.
I think I'll be able to copy and paste it. I just need to find my last email. So this is what another commission came up with. Is there a chat or something?
You can actually present your screen.
Oh, the chat isn't available.
Are you able to present your screen?
I should be able to. Let me just get it into like a Word document or something. It'll take 2 seconds. Share screen. All right, you should be able to see my Word document.
Yes, we can. Thank you. Any thoughts?
So is this saying that in the example of the mechanical tree clearing, they would need to submit a separate wetland permit?
No, this is from another town. We haven't been required by any other commissions that would say that. So I wouldn't have any language for that. This is just saying that the markings are valid specifically for the vegetation management plan. Any other project, we must come back to your commission, and that would include like if there's any like mechanical work that's outside the scope of the vegetation management plan, we would obviously come to your commission. If there's any tree clearing or anything like that, we would come back and take the proper course of action. But if it's in conformance with the vegetation management plan, Keolis, just for the safety and in the interest of just the Commonwealth in general, they need the ability to be able to go out and manage the vegetation along the right of way.
So this,
Oftentimes,
sorry,
go ahead.
please continue.
I was gonna say, oftentimes it happens without much warning. That's what I was gonna end with. Cool.
Yeah, so, Anil, this would be saying that they're allowed to do herbicide and mechanical vegetation removal per their plan. We're, issuing, that, but if they were to do any other work in the future, we would be, the jurisdictional authority to check on that. But we're also not confirming the boundaries that are presented on the maps here.
Okay.
It's just for this work.
Yeah.
Just for this work.
Okay, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
My perspective is this is similar to utilities in which we,
Right.
pursue safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the utmost importance.
Yeah. Okay. I'd be fine with this.
Right, Matt, would you please email that to me?
Yeah, I can do that right now.
So Carly, what would be the motion then?
I think it's up to you guys, but I think you have to decide if it's a positive or negative determination of applicability.
And we would be seeking both.
Okay,
Positive.
so,
Because this is but this is in parts, right? So let's take it in parts.
okay. So what I had suggested was that herbicide spraying would be allowed without further filing,
Okay.
but that proposed mechanical vegetation removal in buffer zone would require the notice of intent. And so you have to decide is that how you feel, or do you perceive it differently? What would you guys decide in terms of that mechanical versus herbicide?
It sounds like we were leaning towards both herbicide and mechanical being permitted just for the purposes of maintenance in the vegetative maintenance plan.
I agree.
Yes. So the motion would have to be allowing for herbicide spraying and for mechanical vegetation removal
Okay,
with the comments that were emailed to you.
okay, allowed with condition. And then, before I was saying the finding was that the wetland resource areas were unable to be determined as a site visit by the conservation planner did not occur. So, so the question is this, so 2A says, the boundary delineations of the following resource areas described on the reference plans are confirmed as accurate. Therefore, the resource area boundaries confirmed in this determination are binding as to all decisions rendered pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations regarding such boundaries for as long as this determination is valid. 2B says the boundaries of wetlands resource areas and buffer zones listed below are not confirmed by this determination, regardless of whether such boundaries are contained on the plans attached to this determination or to the request for determination. So it sounds like you guys are checking off 2A, the first one, that they're accurate, but that we apply the condition that he provided for us.
My understanding was
It's
that
the
it would be
opposite?
to B, but we are allowing it for purposes of like safety maintenance.
yes.
That is what I am understanding.
Okay, how about you guys? Is that what you understand?
That was mine.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
they
2B.
haven't been confirmed.
Okay, thank you. So 2B.
Yeah.
So Matt, does that make sense with what we've all been chatting about in the condition you just provided to us?
That condition is for positive 2A. We still need the confirmation to be able to conduct any vegetation management. Like I said, the positive 2A is confirming it, but saying it's only being confirmed for the vegetation management plan.
So it's 2A.
Okay, that makes
but with
sense
this
then,
condition.
with the condition.
Does that make sense to
Okay.
you? Yes? So 2A with condition. Okay. All right. I think you've made the decision.
Okay, do I have a motion? You have to repeat
And
that.
that would, and just before a motion, would that also be a negative determination as well?
All right, so we've got the positive determination with 2A with the condition.
So what the positive determination does, that's specifically for the maps, and then the negative would be for the work that's included in the vegetation management plan. So basically the positive 2A is saying the maps are, the markings in the field are accurate for the use of the vegetation management plan. The negative determination is saying that the work included in the vegetation management plan to be used with those with those markings, is exempt from an NOI.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
that's
what
exactly
we
it.
understand as well, yeah.
Thank you. So positive 2A, negative 2B. Positive 2A with the condition as stated.
So positive 2A and then a negative determination.
So, let me try to frame a motion then. So, it would be a motion to make a positive determination that the vegetation management plan
Maps.
or maps
Are valid for the purpose.
are valid
of
for the
the-
purpose of the work that Keolis needs to do, and a negative determination
Of applicability.
of applicability for the use of herbicide and mechanical, whatever it was, mechanical vegetation removal.
Does that sound good to you, Carly?
Yes, I'll
Okay.
just have to be specific when I
When
fill
you-
out the form.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I know it's like the way it's, should probably have structured this a little bit differently, but
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all right.
I can't repeat that.
If I will go down the list of Conservation Commission members, please state your position, starting with myself, Kelsey Quinlan, aye, Anil Prasad,
Aye.
Kalima Mustafa Woodberg.
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for your thorough explanations.
Yeah. Carly, did you capture your notes to be able to send
Yes.
it out? Okay.
Perfect, thank you everyone, have a great night. We'll continue to keep you updated throughout the process.
And once
Thank
I-
you.
Thank you.
Once I walk out of here, I won't remember.
Okay. All right, moving on to number 3 for our public hearings, we have 60 Mill Pond Road, request for determination of applicability, Norwood number 2025-08. Applicant, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to say that first name.
Tanios?
Tanyos, okay.
Not me.
Okay, I'm just looking around.
There's someone
He's
online.
contractor.
Okay. Tanyos Homsi, and the representative is Karen Skinner Catrone. Project description, proposed construction of a deck in riverfront area to trap hole brook and buffer zone. Okay, do we have someone here tonight to speak to this?
Karen's on the.
Hi, hi there.
How are you?
Great, what can you tell us about this project?
Carly, do you put the plan up or?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so for the record, my name is Karen Scanacatroni, representing the owners of 60 Mill Pond Lane. The owners are requesting a negative determination to construct a 12.3 by 20 deck over an existing paver patio. Oops.
Can everyone see the plan?
So the site was flagged on November 17th, 2024. It's riverfront area and buffer zone on the site. The deck is proposed over 85 feet from the wetland line and outside the inner riparian zone. 7 footings will be necessary. The pavers will be removed in the area of the footings, only where they're necessary. Erosion control is shown around the area, the work area. So if anybody has any questions?
Okay, so this is a deck over disturbed impervious area already?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yes.
Do you want to see photos?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
wonderful.
that'd be great.
All right, let's see. Hey, Kavi, do you want to point out? This is- Yeah, it's
Okay,
here.
so, excuse me, Karen.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I think the camera will look at you eventually.
Okay. So what we're trying to do on this level right here, we're adding about 12 feet by 20 feet deck. That's gonna come out this way. This is existing right now. We are just on top of that area.
Okay.
And we're gonna have 3 posts in the front and 2 posts to carry support for the stairs to come in this way. So all our work area will not go in close to the river or anything. It's already above this area.
Okay.
Structure will be permitted by the town after your approval, and everything will be inspected by the building inspector.
Okay, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
the explanation.
Yes, you did.
Any questions from the commissioners?
No,
No,
pretty
yeah.
straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice pool.
You can
Yeah.
you can come over.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, I don't think we can.
Off the record.
Carly, do you have any comments about the project?
No, it's already over tile.
Mhm.
See
Mhm.
there, or pavers, I should say. Let's see. The stream runs in the woods behind. Right. Yeah. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. It seemed to me that this would be, it would have negligible impact on buffer zone and resource areas. And therefore, I would advise a negative determination. So, negative finding under the Wetlands Protection Act, because the work will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. So it doesn't require the filing of a notice of intent under the Wetlands Protection Act. Under the bylaw, it seemed to me that it also will not fill, dredge, or alter that area, as per section 3, jurisdiction A. So it doesn't require the filing of an NOI. I would suggest a special condition, which is that no equipment is to enter the wetlands at any time during site preparation, construction, or during any other phase of the project, and no materials are to be placed in the wetlands.
That's unreasonable.
That's understandable.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have a fence back there, right? So I don't even think you
It's
could.
too far.
Yeah.
And if I bring the material all the way to the back, I have to carry it and bring it back inside.
Very true.
But I'm gonna build the deck, so it's
Yeah.
not work I needed.
Oh,
Before we move any further, I just want to make sure there's no comments from the public on this topic. Okay. Any questions or comments? No?
no.
I'll make a motion to issue a negative determination
With special conditions.
with special conditions that Carly will document.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll now go down the list of Conservation Commission members. Please state your position, starting with myself, Kelsey Quinlan, aye, Anil Prasad,
Aye.
and Kalima Mustafa Woodberg.
Aye.
Okay, Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the deck.
Yeah.
Don't jump off the deck into the pool. That looks
Actually, I was thinking about it. Since you mentioned it, no, I can't.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good dad. Good dad. That's his son. I'll see you guys. Good night.
Good night. Okay, moving on to public hearing number 4, we have proposed changes to Norwood Wetlands Protection Bylaw regulations, including a revised fee schedule, references to stormwater management regulation, and other minor alterations. Hello there.
Hello. I'm just gonna hook this up. Excellent. All right. So my name is Phil Paradis with Beta Group. We've been helping the town with a project that helps them be compliant with the MS4 permit, as well as consolidate all the stormwater regulations into one document.
And Phil, would you just expand on MS4 permit?
Yeah.
People listening.
I'll give you a little history of the MS4 permit in my presentation here. But I just wanted to give you a history, a little bit of history of stormwater management and how it's evolved in the last couple of years, 30 years about, and where we are today, and what the regulations do to set you up for victory, whatever, I don't know. So, let's see. So I just wanted to, yeah, so my presentation will give you a little status of the current regulation, the drainage systems, and conventional, what's typical in most communities in Massachusetts. The development impacts on water quality, the EPA, MS4 requirements relative to that, the Norwood water quality issues specific to the town here, and then we'll give you a outline of what we've made, the bigger changes in the regulations here, and then open it up to some questions. So the current drainage systems, there's kind of two categories. One is everything built before 1996. 1996 was the year that DEP came out with their stormwater management standards. A lot of things came about at that time, but before that there were really no regulations for treatment. The basic premise was get the water off the road, get the water off my property. There was a basic engineering philosophy about no adverse impacts to your neighbors based on runoff. So you had to control your runoff, your peak rate of runoff, but that was about it. Most current drainage systems built before 1996 do not meet the current standards in any way, and they're probably not sufficient for controlling flooding. So they're probably way undersized for the current storm events. So understand the reality. Stormwater runoff contains, so this is relative to the pollutants, contains, a number of pollutants. Basically everything that is on the road or within the watershed area gets washed into your drainage system and almost always directly piped to wetlands, to waters of the United States, whether it's a river or pond or whatever, untreated. Catch basins catch basins before this time did have a small sump. They do provide minimal treatment in terms of, but most catch basins were also not maintained. So this sump filled up and just your system did nothing. And also there is a the nutrients washed in amongst everything else, such as phosphorus and nitrogen, have a very detrimental effect when it exceeds what the wetland systems or water systems can naturally absorb. And then you get, algae blooms, and, your ponds look like this. No light is getting through, nothing can grow. Dissolved oxygen is sucked up. Virtually makes it uninhabitable by typical aquatic species. So we just want to review the regulations are put into effect. EPA is most concerned about water quality, how clean the runoff is. Water quantity is another issue altogether, but water quality issues require less infiltration and infrastructure than water quantity structure. So, for instance, EPA requires 60% phosphorus removal under the new development regulations, and 50% for redevelopment projects. But in order to get that, you just have to infiltrate maybe the first 0.3 or 0.4 inches of runoff. It's not a very big amount that will get you that goal. So that will have no effect on flood issues, etc. When the storm is 5 or 6, 7 or 8 inches, that first 0.3 is not going to really change it. So. Yeah, what I just said. So, as we're well aware of, development has two major setbacks relative to stormwater. One is it increases impervious area, that'll decreases the infiltration and increases runoff. So you get flooding issues as well as additional pollutants. On the other side, it reduces vegetation and reduces natural treatment, and the result is a degraded water system. So without intentional building of techniques, you're going to get suspended or conveyed stormwater runoff that ends. You can't. Anything conveyed in the water system is going to end up in your natural water systems. So there has to be some sort of mitigation for those events. So EPA has, I don't know how familiar you are with the MS4 permit, but EPA has basically developed a permit that requires what's called 6 minimum control measures. One is public education, 2 is public involvement, 3 is illicit discharge detection and elimination program. The idea is to make sure that there's no direct sewer connections to your stormwater systems. 3 and 4 revolve around the stormwater regulations. 4 is construction activities, making sure you have all your erosion controlled and you're monitoring it during construction. 5 is basically what we're here for today, and putting in some requirements relative to stormwater management regulations. And 6 is good housekeeping, everything from catch basin cleaning to street sweeping to facility monitoring and inspection and maintenance of your systems, developing a program that we could use retrofits for BMPs or stormwater control measures, as they're now called. So anyway, this is a basic review. The education of people, reduction of runoff to the implementation of low-impact development techniques or green technologies, as they are now referred to, and provide treatment of runoff through stormwater control measures. And these are the original or actually modified regulations, basic regulations from DEP. It covers everything from discharges to illicit discharges to, that's pretty standard. The requirements for, lost without my mouse. So the MS4 permit requires that you have regulations in place that prohibit illicit discharges so that you can enforce that, and implement erosion control program to prevent runoff during construction, develop programs for stormwater management, both through design, construction, and ongoing maintenance requirements. The 2016 MS4 permit requires these additional added above DEP's stormwater standards. They require require retaining an inch of runoff over all your impervious surfaces for new development, or remove 90% of TSS and 60% of phosphorus. It's slightly reduced for the redevelopment part, it's 80% and 50%, but most major site developments do not treat any. So that's where DEP is trying to get, is kind of doing the retrofits of all the redevelopment projects.
Question for you on number 2.
Yep.
Remove 60% of the average annual load of total phosphorus.
Yep.
How do you do that?
So that's primarily done by infiltration. The easiest way to do it is through infiltration. Otherwise, say you have C or D soils that are poorly, you don't infiltrate well, you'll want to use like a sand filter or a proprietary treatment like a jellyfish or something that has either cartridges or whatever that the phosphorus will attach to as it's going through the system. But predominantly, like I said before, if you have 0.3 or 0.4 inches in good draining soils, you can treat your runoff that way. So the systems don't have to be big, they just have to cover the full amount of impervious surface. Sometimes developers will build a system that's great volume, but doesn't treat all the impervious, so you do get some of that runoff. So, so it's better to cover everything for a small amount than, if that makes sense.
So Carly, for any of the, I guess, applications that are coming through or still in review that we haven't yet approved, would these retroactively apply to them? Like 61 Endicott, or 60, I don't know, whatever it was.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We're still getting this all up and running.
So it's effective as of May 29th, so anything submitted after that date would be required to be followed.
But it exists now. These are 2016 standards.
So the MS4 requirement requires towns to develop regulations that include
Okay.
this.
Mhm.
Okay, so EPA has no way to enforce it, but the
Okay.
towns do. So the illicit discharge requirement, these regulations as well. So that's what EPA is requiring, so they are now in your regulations, that and, I don't know if we got. Yeah, so that's the regulation. So this is specific to Norwood. You have, just about everything runs off to an impaired water body. So it requires really treatment of all the projects, all your runoff. So.
Oh God, I can never set
in,
foot in any of these places.
So the minimum required for EPA is any land disturbance of an acre or more. So we have been working with, and because of this situation, where you have everything is running to, we encourage and we work with towns to have a threshold system. So this is the same thing that we did in Westwood. I'm the acting town engineer in Westwood. This is exactly what we did in Westwood, where we have anything that disturbs 5,000 square feet to a half an acre, it goes through what's called an administrative review. It's not extensive, it requires a sketch, it requires a basic intent, narrative with a basic intent of what the project involves. It would require someone with stormwater expertise to visit the site, to be able to take a look and make sure, for instance, roof runoff is recharged, if the soils are acceptable. They would look for opportunities to direct either the driveways or any pervious surface over pervious lawns or vegetated areas instead of going directly to the street. So just some minor tweaks of a project could, in the long term, have a benefit to the town. So the idea is just to nudge the developers to take a look at that. So anything above half an acre or more would go through your similar, any project that you have a stormwater management report, the full erosion control plans, a stormwater management design, operation and maintenance plan, that should include a inspection and maintenance form that's submitted to the town annually, so that you can monitor and make sure everybody's doing their operation and maintenance. So that's the so I just went, this is kind of the submission requirements. So the engineering department would, I guess, would be responsible for that. So this is an example, and this is the land disturbance permit. It's a full, basically what you require for your full developments. So a modest home, may not trigger it. But what we're finding is that, especially in Westwood, there's a lot of tear downs, and they tear down the small house and put a 3 times as big a house, and it almost always triggers it. At least the administrative review. Slightly bigger house would do that. So anyway, that's kind of the main review, the main changes that we enacted over and above what's required is the review thresholds, like I said. We're also recommending and implementing using the rainfall data from NOAA 14 as opposed to the TP40. TP40 was actually done, the data was gained actually during a drought period. Right now we're seeing 50% increases in most storm events. So we recommend you use that. They're also projecting it to get even worse as climate change increases. Also, because most of the treatment facilities are in especially the larger projects, ultimately use infiltration as their treatment and stormwater mitigation. I've done peer reviews for, 20 or 30 towns in eastern Massachusetts here. And the biggest challenge we have with working with engineers is they optimistically think their infiltration system is, you get a C soil. No, that's an A soil. And, I think just having the testing done for some of these systems before they're actually installed is gonna save heartache on both the developers' time, and the town's time. So, and we also recommend that wherever possible that you, and as part of the discussions in particular, and this is something new and Norwood, is they increased the rate of infiltration from 1 inch to 2 inches. So that will help reduce some flooding. As we've seen from the Neponset River study, is, really we should be infiltrating 4 or 5 inches. But that's probably impractical for this day and age. And not until, well, I don't know how that's gonna, unless it's mandated. But anyway, so also to reduce the requirement for discharge of groundwater, recommend that the lowest floor of a construction be set 2 feet above seasonal high groundwater.
In Westwood, did you make that part of like the building permitting process? How did this get through to new construction?
So that's also included in their regulations as well.
Okay.
Really the bottom one is a recommendation.
Okay.
There are whole subdivisions that are built below groundwater elevations, and they all have some pumps, and they're all pumping into the street, and then
Yeah.
it freezes in the winter, and it provides a base flow in the summer. You're basically taking the storage in the soil. You're taking the water that's being stored in the soil out,
Yeah.
and you're flooding somewhere else. I was at a stormwater summit a month ago, and as we're talking about flooding and such, the statement was made that we can't reduce flooding. We can only decide where it's going to flood, because the water's not, can't put in the Charles. It's going to flood the Charles or the Ponset or so. And we just did a flood study in Needham, and we looked at all the flood areas, and there was probably like a dozen flood areas. We looked at all the historical maps. It turns out 90% of the flood areas used to be wetlands, and flooded,
Yep.
and they filled in the wetlands, and they channelized all the streams and culverts that are now way too small, and such. So they have a lot of work to do, as a lot of communities do, because it has never been holistically, stormwater management hasn't been holistic, such as your water system or your sewer systems. It's not modeled that way most towns. So anyway, I don't want to get too far off the, but anyway, that's what we are included in your regulations. So you have a little more teeth to push developers to make sure that you're drinking clean water as opposed to dirty water.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
thoughtful
Thank you,
presentation.
this is really good.
Very informative.
Any questions?
I think you answered
Yeah,
this.
this is good. Thank you. Yeah.
Carly, are we looking, so the regulations, are we looking to do a motion for them tonight?
So, Phil was speaking to the stormwater regulations that our town adopted
Correct.
on May 29th. And so we've had to revise the wetlands bylaw regulations so that they refer to these stormwater regulations instead of having our own section on stormwater. And then we've also made some small changes. And so it's to accept those changes. Oh no, I don't know why that just happened.
Oh, I just turned it on.
Okay. So it's to accept the changes in our wetlands regulations, to point towards the stormwater regulations and include a few more edits. And then also to include the revised fee schedule. So the Conservation Commission would vote to adopt
Roll that in
the
together.
revised
Okay.
regulations. Yeah.
This is a public hearing, so does anyone from the public have
So I
any
don't know how to change it over.
questions or
Is it
comments?
touch?
Carly, you might want to unplug and plug back in. That might
Okay.
do
Yeah,
something.
you have to switch the source from whatever.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a touch or. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
No worries. David Hearn, I see your hand is raised.
Hi. Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I didn't know if you were going to have a discussion about your proposed changes to the regulations or not. Carly had sent them to me the other day after I requested them. And I had a few comments on it, a few questions. I was interested to hear the discussion just now on the stormwater, the new regulations that were adopted by the engineering department, stormwater authority, I guess. And I wonder you've had some provisions in your regulations about stormwater, but is it the view of the commission now that the engineering department has the sole authority with respect to stormwater? And it's
I know I have an opinion on this, but I know Carly can share, what has been discussed in the community development and engineering department meetings regarding this.
So, seeing if I can open this. There it is. Okay, hold on one moment, please. David, one additional edit was made to the document that I shared with you today, related to what you just asked. I'm just trying to get to it. Maybe if you could discuss something else right now so I can find this document would be great.
Yeah, I think I had some questions. Some of my comments are more editorial, not so much proofreading type stuff. And just I think that when organizations such as the commission and others work on bylaws, and I've worked on them for different nonprofits and other organizations, what we all hope to have at the end is something that is clear and that will not create questions down the road, because questions lead to difficulties often, or multiple interpretations. So, and I'm reminded of a case where in Maine where a missing comma cost the company $5 million. So some of these are minor things, but it just might make them read a little better. On the second paragraph of purpose, page 3, I think, of what Carly had sent me. You refer at line 4 to section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the regulations issued, and then there is in there, then under is crossed out, and then under is put back in. And I'm not sure what you're doing. I think did you mean to say the regulations issued under 310 CMR 10.00? Is that what you're trying to say?
David, can you see the screen right now?
Yeah.
Do you see, have I got the right page there in terms of what you're speaking to?
Yeah, it's well.
This is the most updated version today.
wetland.
You're on, what page are you on, Carly?
Okay, hold on one moment. Section 5, stormwater management.
Yeah, no, I was talking, I'd gone to the beginning, but I'm happy to switch to that.
Okay, no, we can go back to what you're.
Oh, you got it up on this, okay. All right, if you got it, that's fine. I'm just looking, paragraph,
Okay.
the paragraph, there, B, and then the second paragraph of B.
Yeah,
And the regulations issued, you mean to say the regulations issued under 310 CMR? Is that what you mean to say? The word there, I don't understand what the word there is doing. Unless it's the referring to section 40 and the regulations issued thereunder, in which case the 310 CMR ought to be a parenthetical, but, you know, it's not sure what you're referring to. And then some of this is a matter of style, but some of it is a matter of clarity. And I don't know why we use, I know the Commonwealth does this all the time, and to me it doesn't make sense. If we say in excess of half acre, why don't we use the words 1/2 acre? Again, for clarity. Those are minor things. I was curious about the preceding paragraph. And I know that some of these things have been in there for a while. At least maybe since the last revision. But is there anything in the bylaw about rare species? Is there anything in the bylaw about recreational values? Is there anything in the bylaw about the avoidance of soil pollution? Water pollution, yes, but I didn't know the word soil was in there.
So, yeah.
And I'm just wondering if this is supposed to be following the language of the bylaw, because your authority is based upon the bylaw and nothing else. So I was just wondering if this is, if really you're expanding the purposes beyond what the bylaw says. And I'm just putting that out. I'm not here to make a big argument. Some of you know my views already on some of these regulations. But I didn't see those referenced in the purpose of the bylaw as stated and as adopted by town meeting. So I didn't know where those came from.
Carly, would it be helpful if David sent all of his questions to you
yes,
rather
Yeah.
than trying to do this here right now?
yes.
Because I feel
Was
like
it-
some of the questions need further discussion, maybe internally with you, Alex, or whomever. I don't think
think
this
that
is
makes
something we can
sense.
solve here.
No, I'm happy to submit something in writing, because it would be more helpful, but I just got these, a few days ago when I've been tied up, and at one point I thought I was going to attend tonight, but some domestic things kept me here, at home. But if you're saying you want me to submit them and you're going to consider them another time, that's fine too. Is that the suggestion, Neil? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it completely.
Yep, that is the suggestion.
I would
I'm happy to
second
do
that.
Not keep you guys here for a while arguing, talking about stuff. Some of it is minor, some of it is more proofreading. Some of it you might decide to authorize the conservation agent at some point to fix a few things. A semicolon should be replaced by a colon somewhere, things like that. But more substantive things, obviously, you have to discuss. And I'm happy to write something up rather than go on for a while and then really you're at a disadvantage of not having it in front of you. The discussion would be much better at a different time. And Carly, I could put that together sometime in the next week or so. Send it to you, you can circulate it, and then sometime it can be discussed.
Okay.
I-
Sure, you got a
Sounds
comment?
great, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the edits that we suggested only revolve around how we implement the stormwater standard.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It may be beyond what we.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Thank you.
That's fine, yeah, and I understand, that's one thing you're wrestling with the new regulations. And Carly, if we can go back, that one you wanted to show me while we have a gentleman there, can I just ask, what page was that, 10, I think?
Yeah, I'll get there.
Yeah, or somewhere in there. Stormwater management begins at page 7.
Okay, it's on the screen.
Yeah, okay. do all projects, I mean, does this whole section go out? If this is now outside of your, do you consider this outside of your responsibility? I guess the
No.
chair commented that you've had that discussion, Carly.
It's not, let's see, David, look at the second red sentence. I think that's the new one that, our Assistant Director of Community Development added today.
Well, I guess the question is, what's the authority for that? If stormwater regulation is within the control of the engineering department by vote of town meeting, where is the jurisdiction to impose a condition like that? Where does that come from? Or where's the authority, I mean? Again, these are things we won't solve tonight, I suspect. But I was just asking, because you're crossing out a lot of stuff that I think you did have before the stormwater regulations took effect. And one of the problems, I've seen this in another town recently, where a project had to go to 4 different boards over stormwater issues, and it was a tremendous use of resources for both the town and the applicant. And here, it seems to me, the town has vested that authority in the engineering department.
So, yes, so that was the intent, and that's what we've been working with most towns when we do this, is we consolidate all the requirements for the town in one document. So a developer knows what he has to design to, whoever is doing the review has to do one review. It's not done piecemeal through every different board and they have different priorities. The idea is that we consolidate all the requirements, both for DEP, for the EPA, and for specific requirements the town has implemented in the past and in the stormwater standards. The regulations themselves can be updated as necessary with working with the engineering group as they see fit for any changes that they want. So it's not a, yeah, and so that we kind of, as you said, avoided the 4 different reviews. I work in another town and that's exactly what happens. There's 4 different standards for each board, and it just makes it very difficult for a developer and a peer review consultant, because that's what we do, but for them to be able to review it, so.
Yeah, and that's why I think having it in one department helps with so that we eliminate the extra steps that otherwise have different boards deciding different things.
Right.
So that's what my question, I guess, comes back to. Is the Conservation Commission now out of the stormwater management business?
I think that for projects under a certain number of square feet, the Concom would comment.
Yeah, I mean, they ultimately have to make the decision, but they will get the input of engineering, right? Any project that will have to have a stormwater permit, that's so it will relieve some of the pressure from the commission itself, but it doesn't give them the authority to just waive or change or not seek the input of engineering relative to these stormwater issues, so.
Well, I mean, I guess my question is, doesn't engineering now have all that authority? And Concom gets a notice of an application sent in under the stormwater regulations and may want to comment. I'm talking about whether you, under your bylaw or under the regulations that follow the bylaw, conservation is going to continue to have some responsibility and authority over that. That's my question.
I would assume so, yeah. They, I mean, so a public hearing process also raises issues frequently that either engineering or the commission themselves weren't aware of. So, it's a cooperation issue. more than anything. But we have a foundation, a framework that everyone's playing off the same set of regulations. Specific to site abnormalities or issues themselves, yes, the commission probably is gonna be closer to the issues than, for wetland issues than engineering, so it would.
And I assume they'd advise on that. But what I'm getting at is whether conservation is going to be making decisions and issuing orders or other types of determinations that relate to stormwater when the town voted to vest that authority, and that's what I'm asking. Does conservation, do you folks in conservation consider that applicants still have to get some permission from you related to stormwater matters, even if the engineering department thinks that there's no need for a stormwater permit or anything like that? There's a line here that says that all projects subject to the wetlands protection bylaws shall conform to the performance standards set forth in the stormwater regulations, even if a separate stormwater permit is not required. Except if a permit is not required, what compliance with the regulations is required? I think there's something that needs to be hashed out.
So this is a catch-all for any project that's less than 5,000 square feet of disturbance. This is, the Conservation Commission doesn't give up. They've always had the authority to review projects, no matter how big the size was, for stormwater. The regulations themselves are primarily for projects that are greater than 5,000 feet of disturbance. And that's pretty much was mandatory for projects outside of the Wetlands Protection Act. So, meaning that there was many projects that were outside of the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act, which required meeting the DEP stormwater management standards. But outside of that, there's very little control over implementing DEP standards. This combination of the Wetlands Protection Act and these stormwater regulations catch it all. So.
Well, okay.
So-
I appreciate the explanation.
David, Carly, sorry to interrupt, David, can I make a suggestion?
Sorry.
Can we send whatever the latest version of the document is to David and have him respond with his list of questions?
Yes.
I'm sure you will need time, Carly, to research the questions or discuss with David and internally. And then I think what happens is the next time we meet again in 3 weeks, we have the public hearing on this.
I agree with that. That sounds like,
I think that's the most efficient way to go about this.
Okay, so this is considered a public hearing, what we are having right now. So
right.
we would continue.
We're continuing.
We would continue, yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you. Some of them are minor, some of them are not, but that would be the best thing. I'm happy to write something up and share with Carly, and Carly, you'll send me the latest version to look at. And what's the date of that next meeting? Is it July?
July 9th.
Oh, good, okay. It's a date. That's all, Madam Chair. I mean, I think I'm happy to do that and not
Okay.
have everybody start from scratch.
No, and I think
Sure.
you'll be able to, receive more thoughtful responses to your concerns and questions in that way. When the board is looking at the document, it is the final.
I agree. I prefer it that way too.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
So if
But I appreciate the explanation tonight from the gentleman also, because it was helpful where this is all new territory for a lot of us.
yes, we're very lucky Phil is here with us
Yeah.
tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if it would please the commission, we could have a motion to continue this hearing to July 9th at 7:30 at the senior center.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay.
And Google Meets also?
Yes, virtually and in person. All right, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members. Please state your position, starting with myself, Kelsey Quinlan, aye. Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Kalima Mustafa Woodberg.
Aye.
Okay. All right, and that closes our public hearings for the evening. Thank you very much.
The, fee
Thank
schedule.
you.
The fee schedule.
Tonight.
That, I think that's part of that.
Oh, okay.
It's all the one agenda
Oh,
item.
Okay.
Am I incorrect in that assumption? He
Is-
mentioned the fee schedule, that's all
that
lumped
separate?
together.
It's,
It's
yeah,
all- okay,
yeah, it's
that's
one.
fine.
Okay, moving on to wetland issues and updates, we have emergency certification for installation of a water flow and beaver controlled device at Astor Avenue in Morgan Drive right-of-way. All right, Carly, you're up.
So,
Another beaver one.
so, there's a berm through which a sewer pipe runs. This is behind Home Market Foods and 79 to 85 Astor Avenue. And the beavers tend to block up the culvert, so the water gathers in the pond there, the pond level raises, and then it floods into the parking lot, and it floods the service road over the berm for the sewer pipe. So this has been happening for several years. It's not a new thing, but it means that DPW has to go in and clear out that culvert pretty regularly, and then the beavers just block it up again. So they hired a firm called Beaver Solutions to go in and put in a device that prevents the beavers from blocking up the culvert. And what's nice is it's more of a long-term solution because we're not trapping and killing the beavers, regularly. Because if you do that, then more beavers will just move in and use the habitat and block up the culvert. So this is exciting. They asked for permission. They needed an emergency certificate to put in this device because it's altering a wetland resource area. And they need that emergency certificate from the Conservation Commission, and then they needed a certificate from the Board of Health. So they got the certificate from the Board of Health. I signed the emergency certificate on behalf of Conservation Commission, but I would ask that you ratify that emergency certificate tonight.
Okay.
And that gave them 30 days in which to do the job. They did it all on Monday, and I can show you pictures.
Oh, I'd love
What's
that.
the device look like?
I'll show you.
Yeah.
This is
I gotta
very
see.
timely. It'll be great to monitor this site and see, if it is a success story, perhaps it can be applied in other parts of town as well.
Like the airport.
Let's see.
I feel like a beaver trauma.
What is this device called?
This is where is it? The fence and, let's see.
'Cause I-
The fence and pipe flow device, or like baffler.
Baffler. Okay, I've heard of the beaver deceiver, but I think that's
Yes.
proprietary.
Yes. All right, so here you see an employee of Beaver Solutions out in the pond.
Oh.
Interesting.
In the foreground is one fence that he put up that's near the culvert itself, and a ridged pipe will run from there out into the middle into like a caged unit. I'll show you more photos. I'm just gonna go through the photos. There's the unit that he made here. This is Ryan Manning, who's our Assistant Director of DPW, came to check up on the site. Let's see. It's another view. Hold on. He was out there throughout the day putting this in.
Wow. So the idea is just to make it inhospitable or habitable
Inhabitable.
for the beavers.
That's like
He's
the
getting
Bob and
pipe
Blue Snow.
here. It'll make it impossible for the beavers to block up the opening.
Yeah.
So it stretches the pipe from the culvert out into the middle of the pond, and then the beavers don't hear, basically they don't hear the water
The
moving.
trickling that, like, it prompts their
Okay.
their little instincts to say, like, oh, I hear water, I'm gonna fill that. That's like their instinct. So
Understood.
if they can't hear it, then they don't get triggered to do that.
What if they just tip the thing over?
They we can't.
Mhm.
Let's see, device. So I also went out, after, this is to show you, look at, here's duckweed that's on the path,
Oh.
to show you that the water was there.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
This is looking at this right of way, you
Mhm.
can see where there was standing water. So this is the smaller fence in the foreground, and you can't even see the, sort of the cage in the background at the other end of the pipe, but it's there. So I guess it's just to say, it looks like it's a pretty minor visual when
Mhm.
you're walking the path, but it's there. Yes, so it's exciting.
If you could just clarify, is this a public works project or is it a private,
Public.
public? Wonderful, okay. I think it's great that we're exploring this solution and, hopefully it leads the way to more humane and,
Yeah, absolutely.
Popular.
Can we try this at the airport?
Sorry?
Can we try this at the airport?
It will be up to the airport to decide, but that would be great.
And do you have any idea how much this costs the Public Works Department?
Yeah. Let's see. I think I'd have to look in my emails.
So do we need to vote on this? or-
No, we're gonna sign afterwards her emergency.
Oh, okay, got it.
So I think I could look up for you the cost of it, but
Yeah.
it'd take a bit to find it in there
Yeah,
right now.
okay.
Like sub 10,000?
I wouldn't want to speak out of
Okay,
turn.
that's very fair, Carly. Okay. All right, wonderful.
So I would just ask that you ratify this emergency certificate tonight, which means if you would sign
Yep,
it.
that's fine.
Great. Okay then, moving on to Conservation Commission business, we have inspection of compromised Guild Pond outlet.
So, the Guile Pond outlet was damaged by the storm, the big storm we had recently. So the sandbags that the Sportsmen's Association have put in place, some of them have moved. And what that means is the water level in the pond has dropped. And so I thought it would be helpful if we were to have a dam engineering firm take a look at the site and tell us what is the risk of leaving it as it is right now until we can get the feasibility plan started. The Community Preservation Act funds will be, I think, allotted in July. But before that time, I would like to have someone come and check it out. And so I've been contacting firms to find out what it might cost for them to give us an assessment, so to come out to the site and just to tell us what they see. What are the risks involved in leaving it as is? How much time do we have before we have to do something? I got one quote of $5,000 from PAR, but I would look to get at least 2 more quotes. And I think that I would like to ask the Conservation Commission's permission to move forward so that we can get this done in a timely manner, of spending maybe approximately $5,000, probably under 10, on this sort of an assessment.
Has this Guild Pond thing has been going on for a while.
Yes.
So I feel like this is like the 3rd or 4th time I've heard it in recent memory. Is this the one where the tree, like there's like a, I don't know, like the water is under the dam or like I forgot what it was. Someone had showed a picture of it.
Yes, from the Sportsman
Yes,
Club.
yes,
yes.
He showed us the tree and how it could be a hazard with the way that the water's undercutting
Yeah.
the root
Yeah.
system there.
Yeah.
Carly, I think that this is, well worth exploring. I know safety was a concern, and I would feel comfortable, or I would feel more comfortable if we had some sort of professional assessment.
Would the assessment from PAIR give us a long-term plan?
The woman that I spoke with mentioned it as a phase 1 inspection. Let's see.
Oh.
I don't know that it would be, so there's too many emails to find.
Yeah,
this.
I think what would be helpful to understand is what would it cost for someone to put together a long-term plan,
That's a good,
right? Because if we
Yeah.
keep spending money here and there, or keep putting in temporary solutions, I don't think fixing this like this is going to work.
All right, so here's what PAR said, Heather Shanks on behalf of PAR. She said, "We reviewed the request and it appears a field inspection, similar to what is completed as part of a phase 1 dam inspection, would be appropriate at this stage. Following the inspection, we could complete a file review of information provided by the town and a limited report which summarizes the inspection findings and provides recommendations for repair, as well as short-term measures to be implemented while the RFP is prepared and a longer-term solution is designed. The report could also include the requested information pertaining to the risks with leaving the spillway as is and timeline for implementation."
Carly, with the CPA money
Yeah.
and the feasibility study, what's the estimated timeline before that deliverable? I guess, how long is this Band-Aid going on for, right? If we get a response or a deliverable on the feasibility study, do we expect that in 3 months or 13 months, right?
When we had been giving, when I gave the CPC presentation, we had estimated it would take about a year for that study.
Okay.
Is the RFP to fix the problem long-term?
It would be included. So the RFP is for a feasibility study, looking at what to do with Guile Pond, and included in that is the outlet. Like, does the community support keeping it as a pond? You know, would we fix the dam, replace the dam, remove the dam? You know, would we create like a fishing dock? Would we add benches? Would we dredge the pond? It was all part of sort of a bigger plan for the pond.
I guess given that the use of the pond in the future could be changed, do we need to spend any money to find to figure out any short-term risks? Because that's what an email said, right? Or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can pull it back up. Completed file review of information provided by the town, a limited report which summarizes the inspection findings and provides recommendations for repair, as well as short-term measures to be implemented. So, guess I got it.
Does it make sense to get 2 more quotes and circle back next meeting? I know Catherine probably would have a lot of thoughts regarding this, considering she's part of the CPA and has been around for more of the Guile Pond trials and tribulations over the years. That's just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's helpful, and I also think it would be helpful to have one of the firms say, like, what would it cost to put together a long-term plan, if it's possible, if that's going to be part of the RFP. I don't know. Like, what I'm trying to get at is, we don't know what Guile Pond is going to be used for in the future, right? Or what that dam is going to be used for in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But if we do have to repair it and keep it, we should repair it for the long term.
Well, I think this is something to do in the interim. That's what's being explored. For all we know, the dam isn't part of the future. So, you know, based on what that RFP provides, not saying that would happen, but just, so this would be truly for a solution for the next 12 months, perhaps.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
you know, this would let us know if there are safety issues there, which it is a public space that the Conservation Commission owns, so that is a consideration. Do you think that's fair to wait 3 weeks and see if you get 2 other quotes? Because you have to do that anyway, and then to circle back?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think it's too time sensitive to continue?
It's a good question. The water level is down.
Okay.
can't show you yet, hasn't downloaded from my phone, or uploaded from my phone. I think if the Conservation Commission feels strongly that we should wait until next Concom meeting to decide how to move forward, we can do that.
Any opinions? I'm only one member here.
I'd wait 3 weeks for the other quotes to come in.
It wouldn't necessarily, if you're required by law to solicit 2 more quotes, it wouldn't, I would hope, wouldn't slow you down more than a week or so, right? If we could make a decision at next meeting, one way or another. That's just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay, number 2, under Conservation Commission business, we have draft conservation land use regulations.
Okay, so this came up, let me get back to the screen here. Because we had a resident who is interested in potentially holding a wedding on conservation land, or also a community activist group meeting on conservation land. Specifically, Endine Park at Mylad Street was of interest. And we were just realizing that we didn't have a form that you might fill out for an occasion like this, and that we had discussed potential land use regulations in the past, but we'd never settled on any. And so I had shared with you 3 different versions of land use regulations, and it seemed to me from reading them that one was preferable, because it could apply to any of our lands, including the food forest, which is used quite differently than others of ours. So I was wondering if you all had any input on these. And it's okay if you want to wait, and read through them again if you haven't had a chance to. I'll post the one that I thought seemed most useful. I actually had thought I would choose a simpler version, but this seems to cover most anything. Let's see, most land use regulations. This was from 2021. Let's see. Pulling it up, I hope. It's down here. There it is. All right, let me just make sure that other people can see this.
Make it just a little bit bigger,
Yeah,
130 view or something. Yep.
that's better.
The first one, I would say there should be no open pit fires, because like people have fires for warming up food and stuff. Those like, do you know what it is? Those when you have the food trays and they have the fires on the bottom. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I wonder, and this is just a off-the-cuff thought, if it makes sense for us to each go through this
I
on
was
our
just
own.
about to say, yeah, I would love like a little more time to just look through it.
It's a good
and
idea.
write down
Yeah,
my
it's a good idea.
comments, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a good suggestion that I didn't even consider.
Metal detecting is not permitted. That's interesting.
Was the request to use the land sorted out, or is it hinged?
No, it hinged on developing regulations for the land,
Okay.
and then figuring out what it is we need to ask to figure out if the site's appropriate for the event.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very big topic,
Yeah.
that I want to make sure that the commission puts a lot of time and thought into. And I know that we, in particular, have discussed the food forest in My Lodge Street and the, long-term vision for that site. And I do wonder how, private events fit into that. So I would just want to make sure that we all have time to properly digest and collect our thoughts on the subjects. This is where you found 3 different options. Is the permit the one that you said that was developed in town hall? I thought this was agreed upon at a meeting, or
What are we referring to? Sorry.
the application for use.
Okay, application for use.
Because it's kind of tied in together, right?
Yes, exactly. So I'm just gonna save this. The application for use, I based on those created by several other towns.
So that's kind of like the next step, right? Like those are the rules and this is how you get to using it.
Oh, I see. I think it's great that people want to use the space.
Yeah. There's also thoughts on sort of like how we would manage this.
That's a concern, absolutely. Who gets called on Saturday night when the wedding doesn't end?
Yeah.
The police.
Yes, so I think that these need some thought, and there's also the town manager's department would like to take a look at our final draft, and sort of like run it for consistency against, like, say, Board of Selectmen's land use regulations, and then look at it for like liability and insurance from that perspective as well. So yes, I think that would be great if you would share your input on this.
Okay. Is it okay if I skip over 3? We feel like that was kind of summarized in that, or do you want to speak to that separately? That is draft application for conservation land use.
Yes, okay, so.
Is that this, just to confirm?
Yes.
Okay.
So, there's questions of how many people are appropriate for a site, and ages of people. Like, for instance, would we want them to bring in like porta potties if, depending on size?
Oh, interesting.
And then there's like tents over a certain square footage have to get a permit from building commissioner. So there's those questions as well. And some conservation lands are probably more appropriate for this and some are not. Like at Olivisos Park on Route 1A Walpole Street, there is a pavilion, but there is not at Endine Park, or Big Canoe Launch, or, it's like the different lands could support different activities.
I suppose another thought I have is, should we have a public hearing? This is a question, right? Like, the folks that live around these properties have been, used to the properties being used in a certain way. And I do feel like this would potentially create a pathway for them to be used differently. And I would hate for that to be done without input from the neighborhood.
Okay.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
I haven't visited every conservation property in town. I am familiar with Endine Park and Alavisos. Are there others that could potentially support anything like this, or are those really the 2 we're talking about? I think that's another thing. We need to have do an inventory and be a little bit more direct, like where are we even talking about? Because I think when you're vague, it kind of can open up,
And what's the amount of the property that can be used for space? Because like in Alavisos Park, I live close to that one, right? So I can tell you, there's a part of that park that you can't use, where the butterfly garden is, right? But like there's another piece of it that you can use, that's closer to the pond that's back there, although there's a lot of mosquitoes and bugs.
Would you say there's room in Endine for an event of any nature? I think it's pretty short on space.
I think so too.
like I guess
Because the field grows up.
Well, and
Then
it's a
it's poison ivy,
well,
and-
more importantly,
yeah.
it's a conservation property.
Yeah,
So that is where I do have some hesitation around this whole subject.
yeah.
Because like hearing even tent seems a bit much for me personally for what a conservation property's intent is. And what, again, those neighbors have expected that land to be for. I just have concerns. That's just my general thought. But
I have concerns, but I also think I would encourage us to find a middle ground where we can encourage use of the spaces. So maybe it's, I don't know, no party larger than 50 people or something like that, whatever it becomes. But I think we still need to find a way to have people use the spaces.
now, they're allowed to use them now. It's just on a first come, first served basis and under certain party sizes. Like, not officially, but.
Yeah, I mean, and on the application, it does specify, party size on one of them, which is helpful. And when it says private group activities of 10 or more people are allowed on conservation land only after obtaining specific written permission from the Conservation Commission. So you can have something like that in there, which would help to, control group size.
Okay, well, I think then it's something we can review and discuss at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now moving on to number 4, comprehensive plan report. I have no update to share. We're meeting at the end of this month and haven't met since our last Conservation Commission meeting. I believe that public input period has concluded and the consultant is preparing a draft to present to the committee. Number 5, we have CPC report. Catherine is not here tonight, so I don't think there's anything to report unless you have anything.
don't.
Okay.
And I would advise skipping over number 6, because I saw I did not include those in the digital file folder.
Okay. Then last but not least, we have agent update.
Let's see. Well, we went over the exciting beaver contraption installation, so that's good. What else is going on? Our town has been participating in a Resilient Neponset Climate Collaborative, and the Flood Modeling Steering Committee, that the Neponset River Watershed Association and Weston and Sampson have been leading. And it's us plus the other municipalities in the Neponset River Watershed. And it's exciting. They've put together a computer model to see where flooding has occurred and where it's likely to occur, and where there's areas we might install green infrastructure to help reduce flooding issues. And so Ilex and I went out with a woman from Weston and Sampson and a woman from the Neponset Watershed Association to check out some of those areas on the ground. So I wanted to let you know that that's in the works. Water and Wetlands treated Willett Pond on June 11th for nuisance aquatic weeds. And the Westover Parkway Bridge is going to be under construction soon, which is exciting. We have an intern who will be starting. He'll be working mostly with the Trails Committee to help manage the trails around town. It's Roger Mann. He was with us last year. He will also be available to help with conservation lands, which will be fantastic. So I'm hoping to put together a list of potential tasks for him to do over the course of the summer.
What will he be doing with the trails?
I don't know specifically. He'll be working with Joe Greeley and Joe Barrett, whatever needs doing. They do a lot of
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. I didn't know if he was doing like invasive removal or anything like that.
I think just helping them out in general.
Gotcha.
Yes. I don't have anything else.
Great. All right. The commission could entertain one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, I'll go down the list of commission members. Please state your position. Kelsey Quinlan, aye. Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Kalima Mustafa Woodberg.
Aye.
All right.